Welcome and thank you for joining us for this webinar. We have lots of current customers and companies that we're talking to joining us, and some former customers too, and we're glad to see all of you here. My name is Chris Labatt-Simon. I'm an Executive Vice President at SureDone. I'm responsible for all customer-facing roles in the company. I'm excited to be joined by Jason Naddaff, the founder and CEO of SureDone, and the person who drives the vision and execution of the company and the platform. So tonight, we're releasing version 3.0 of SureDone. And this is an evolution of the platform with a focus on the order management system and includes some wonderful new features such as drop shipping and order combining. We took hundreds of suggestions from customers, combined them with our own knowledge and expertise to create this new version of our software, and we hope you'll like it as much as we do. So we're going to show you a demonstration of many of the new features, and then we'll talk some about what else we're working on and what the future may hold for the platform. We also want to let you know or want to find out what you think about webinars and what else would be helpful to present on. So at the end of the presentation, you'll see a survey, and we'd truly appreciate it if you could provide us with some feedback. Lastly, there should be a spot on your screen to ask questions. We'll do our best to answer questions between sections of this webinar and at the end. Any questions we don't get to, we'll respond to via email. So at this point in time, I'm going to pass this over to Jason for doing the presentation. So thanks, Jason.
Hello, everybody. Let me just get this presentation on there. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
I got it, so all should be good.
Okay, thank you all for joining today. It's almost 7 years ago that we launched the platform with a vision of product distribution. And the idea was that it was to be supported by a flywheel of fulfillment. And while our order management system existed, most of the time we had to defer to other platforms such as ShipStation and ShipWorks for the robust aspect of order fulfillment that many of you go through in your day-to-day. Today, as Chris mentioned, we are launching SureDone version 3.0. This pillar of our technology will complete the backbone of our platform in that it marries our product management system with our recently released order management system, and now we can start to work on the next generation of technologies that we will share in this presentation. Let's see here. But first, let's talk a little bit about where we came from. So the agenda is going to be as follows. We'll talk a little bit about what has been worked on last year and this year up until now, what we're launching today, and we'll do the demonstration. We'll talk about the things that we're working on in tandem while we're launching this, and then some of the features that we'll be launching in the coming months and into 2019. So last year, we migrated our infrastructure to Amazon Web Services. It was a big milestone for us because not only were we able to get the stability that Amazon's cloud offers us and the performance, our infrastructure now is completely auto scale, which means that anytime there is excessive load on any aspect of our cluster, meaning whether it's an eBay integration or a Walmart integration, we now can automatically spin up faster without having to do any manual intervention. Late last year, we also launched our bulk file upgrades. And this is basically what has led to the performance increases for uploading bulk files. Essentially what that does now is we take the bulk file that you upload and we chop it up into little bits intelligently, being aware of whether you have variations or whether you have images in that file. And then from there, we distribute it across our cluster so that way it can quickly make the updates across all channels and your database. The only unfortunate side of that is that because it goes so fast, for any of you that use Magento, now these bulk file uploads have been taking putting too much load on your end servers. So we're working on another upgrade that we will be sharing in the next slide, which we didn't actually write down. But we like to push forward with more performance and try to be as aggressive as possible and work backwards into the actual issues, such as the throttling issue that we just mentioned. The other big major pillar of technology that we launched late in 2017 was the Advanced Automation Engine. Historically, if you've been with us for a few years, you know that we were previously building automations for inventory or order exports manually. You know, we used to have to do custom development. And the reason why this was such a complex problem is that in the early 2000s, many businesses were trying to just get their products online. Probably some of you on this call were going through this, you know, whether it was trying to put it on an FTP or whether it was trying to get it out of a database. So what we did is we launched a technology that can normalize the import and export of product data and order data. And this technology is what is going to lend all of this and facilitate all of the capabilities we're about to talk about, including the drop shipping modules, purchase orders, automated exports of orders, and more. We've also done a lot of work to iterate on our Walmart integration, and that's finally working smoothly now. And we also launched Amazon Australia and have our partnership with DCI. Meanwhile, eBay is working to become catalog-based, and we've been working on those upgrades as well, and are also going to be launching the next iteration of their catalog requirements in the coming weeks. We now have support for EDI, and this is a very old technology that was used to actually transmit order and product data between big enterprises. We support this now, which means that if there is a supplier or a distributor or a warehouse that you need to connect to that has that EDI, SureDone can actually support this now. In addition to that, we made some upgrades to our BigCommerce integration. We introduced this idea of channel retry queues. So in the case of Magento being overloaded, if the server times out, we now will retry that and put it on a queue. Our interface. There were many things about the interface that we heard needed fixing and upgrading, and we worked on those earlier this year by giving you the ability to manage your custom fields, to tie item specifics to the right channel, to save searches, exports, and more. Being a fitment focused and automotive and power sports focused platform, we did massive upgrades to all of our fitment upgrades. We launched kits and bundles, and late last year we also launched Sticky Skip. This idea of skipping, where you basically want to not send data to a channel, will be extended in the coming months. So we're going to give you the ability at the item level to say whether or not you want to send stock or price on a specific item, and that will just be an extension of our Sticky Skip paradigm. So that's what we've been working on end of 2017 up until now. But let's talk about what's happening today. The new order management system has a new data model. And essentially what that means is we went from less order fields to more order fields. And the reason why we did that is we understood that you need granularity in being able to access your orders and being able to manipulate your orders. So for example, the order number that you see in SureDone currently might say something like eBay 11111-123. Now, that order number still exists. We still support that because we want it to be backwards compatible and not disrupt anything as much as possible. But now we actually split that into two fields. There's now a channel field that actually says eBay, and there's an order number field that would say 11111-12345. We have fields dedicated now to things like currency. We have a whole object model for shipping addresses, billing addresses, and probably one of the most important aspects is that there's a whole model now for items. So now we store the SKU in its own field, item details. We now store the historic product data at the time of the order import to the order. In addition to that, we also store the full raw payload from the origin channel. So we no longer have to dig into logs to understand what the actual channel sent us. We can reference it directly in the order. So we basically collect all the data, put it inside of the order, neatly tucked away so it's not in your face, but also it's all there in case we want to see more data or access things that we don't currently support. The other big upgrade is that we now have the ability to combine orders. So you can basically tick off a bunch of orders that you want to combine into a single one, click some buttons, and now it'll combine it into an order. There are some advanced features to this that we'll go over in the demo, such as being able to override some fields. So for example, if you want to specify an order number. And split orders is the exact reverse. So you can take an order that has, let's say, more than one item, because split orders are basically splitting order items. And you can split them into as many orders as there are quantity per item. The other big thing that we're launching today is order custom fields, actually order item custom fields. And this is the feature that facilitates a lot of the drop shipping that we're going to talk about today. So what we wanted to be able to provide was a solution to store product data elegantly into the order. So for example, let's just say that you have a product that has a vendor associated or a warehouse. And every time an order comes in, you want to drop ship that order through that vendor if the product matches. So these order custom fields can now automatically import that product data, and then our automation engine can read that product data. But we'll show you this in practice in the demo. Bulk order management. So not only does our API support the ability to create and manage multiple orders, but in the coming weeks, we're also going to launch a bulk file order management where you can upload a CSV and it'll process in a similar manner to the way our products bulk file works. There's shipping label creation, where you can create the labels directly in our platform now. Multiple shipment support, so you can create as many shipments as you want per order. As I mentioned, historical order item snapshots. So if the product exists in SureDone, meaning that, like it exists either as the channel identifier or the SKU, we will store a snapshot of that product to the order. So there's no trying to figure out what happened or what was the state of that product when the order came in. And finally, the order interface. And lastly, the pick list we've now refactored to sort by SKU. So the drop shipping phase one really leverages this idea of order item custom fields and search, we'll talk about. And then also at the same time, because it's overdue, but we got it in with this release and it'll be launched next week once we've done one last bit of QA, is the new channel Jet. So jet.com, which is owned by Walmart, will be going live next week. It's already been tested. It's part of this release. We're just hiding it for now. And you'll be able to go ahead and start using that right away as soon as it goes live next week. And finally, secure storefront. So for all the storefront users, we now have launched an upgrade in the back end that enables security for all the storefronts on our platform. And next week, we'll be sending notice on how to actually request an SSL certificate from us that we'll provide for free and mount into the system. So that way all your sites will be now secure and modern and meet the requirements of Google and other search. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Let's go into the actual demo. So what you're seeing here right now is the new orders interface. Now, before I get into this, I kind of want to talk about some new settings that there are that control everything, because it's the settings that basically tell the system what it can and cannot do. So there's a new view and acknowledge. So first of all, there's an orders settings now. View and acknowledge essentially says that you either don't want to see this menu at all because you don't use it or don't care about it, and also controls whether or not we'll acknowledge orders on channels that support it, such as Walmart and Amazon. Sync inventory is the setting that basically controls whether or not we're going to sync inventory from orders. Currently, this is an all or nothing. So if it's off and the product exists in SureDone, we will not sync inventory of external channels. By default, it's on, unless you're a user that we know ahead of time that wanted this off. Import all. So this is another big change in the system. So previously, eBay and Amazon orders only imported if the item existed in SureDone. For other channels, we imported all orders. Now you actually can specify if you want all orders from channels to import, whether they exist in SureDone or not, or whether you want only orders that exist in SureDone to import. Email ship tracking is specific to storefronts and I think eBay, where when you fulfill an order through SureDone, we'll send an email to your customer. And these two settings are for basically the export screen. So the new exports now support being able to choose the fields you want to export and saving the actual exports the way we do for products. By default, this is off because we want it to be backwards compatible. So if you leave it off, it will just do the normal exports in the old legacy format. If you turn it on, it will export the new fields and you'll be able to work with saving exports and whatnot. And legacy pick list is basically just the pick list that's already insured, and except whether it uses the new data model and sorts by SKU. Order item field. So this is the custom fields we're talking about. So here we have a custom order item field for dropship vendor. We created one for hazardous materials. Now, by themselves, they can be used manually. So when an order comes in, you can say, I want to basically send it to this vendor, or maybe put some package dimensions or something specific to your process. But where this actually becomes a little more magical is with this custom order item field mapping. So what I can actually say here is that when an order comes in, I can say that automatically map a field to the order. So for example, I might have a vendor field here, but it can be any field that we support. But let's just say we want to just put this special color. So if I hit save, when the order comes in, it will automatically map the product field, special color, to the order item field, dropship vendor. And then in a later process, such as an automation for drop shipping, the search will basically say, export anything to be drop shipped where the vendor equals some value. And that is phase one of kind of how the drop shipping works. We'll talk a little bit about that and provide further explanation for anyone who this is not clear for. The other upgrade here is the shipping. So there was the legacy shipping settings page, but now there's actually new carrier settings. So if you want to take advantage of doing shipping labels in SureDone, in the new system, you have to fill these fields out for your account number, for your meter number, etc., and you have to click on the EULA agree. If you've already entered those in because you were using a legacy module, you still have to come here and click agree and save, because what we basically do in the backend is we create a connection to the shipping APIs so they can be used. So if you want to leverage the new shipping labels, just head it over to the screen, fill in your stamps.com, UPS, and FedEx credentials, and just click save, and it should create the carriers or provide you with an error if there is anything wrong there. Also, for anyone who's using Indicia, we already support the fields here. We don't support it today, but we can in the coming weeks. So if any of you are Indicia users, please just submit a ticket to support and we can expedite that. It's a very small upgrade for us to support Indicia. And now you can choose whether or not you want to use stamps or Indicia. All right, so now those are the settings that kind of control how this all works. Let's get into the meat of this. So this new orders page is similar to the products layout, but we built it a little differently because for performance reasons. So let's make this a little pretty. I want to modify my columns here. I'm going to click on Manage Columns, and now I can actually go in and just start to drag and drop. And forgive this, this is our QA server, it's a little slow, but I can actually now drag and drop our fields. This is instance here, the weight. We have some more upgrades to do here too. So now we actually can see, like the billing name, etc., the date. I can add columns, and you can actually say I want to actually see the shipping total, and now that's there. I can remove columns. So let's remove the weight for now. And then I'm going to click finish. So you can manage all this, and it saves it and it keeps it in the settings. Additionally, too, the other big thing is we now group this. So when you load this page, you actually will see orders laid out by channel. So you'll see your different channels on the left, and you can scroll it, and they're grouped like that for fast access. Now let's say that I actually want to combine some orders here. So now I can just click on some orders that I want to combine. And all I have to do is hit combine selected orders. And now basically it's doing some back-end work. And where did it go? I believe this is what it just created. It should have redirected us to another screen here. And notice how it actually says combine on this, on the order number. So this is what we were talking about, that we have the ability to customize the things of the combined order, so we could use your feedback for what's important to you when you actually leverage these functionalities, because it's all baked into the back end. We just haven't made the interface for some of these things that you can override. That's what they're called, overrides. But just let us know what's important to you and actually being able to leverage this. And we were happy to improve the interface to make it something that you'll use every day. The invoices are like they were before, the little icons. Let's actually look at the shipping interface. But first, let's talk a little bit about the status. So before, in the first iteration of this, everything was being sent to the ship tracking field, which is kind of used as a hybrid status. We've now separated the statuses into individual fields. So now there's a shipping status to confirm, to basically lay out whether an item has been shipped or whether it needs more shipments. There's a payment status that is simple of whether it's paid or not. And then there's a main status. So essentially complete means it's done. You don't need to look at it anymore. This screen by default should load with only things that are in a ready state. Ready basically means it's been imported and you can now do whatever you need to. Ordered and pending are really more middle states. So let's just say you sent a purchase order out, you might want to set it to pending. That won't send to the channels. Or ordered would be in a case where you, let's say, send it off to be drop shipped and you got confirmation and acknowledgement from that drop ship supplier, and now you're just waiting for the tracking number to come in and be sent to the marketplace. Moving forward, let's look at the actual shipping. So now we have this shipment interface, and essentially, it tells you what's missing here. And we can select the carrier, and it tells you exactly what errors there are here. So let's just say test user. And now it's actually going to pull the rates from FedEx. And let's see, why did it not do that there? Longest side distance. I must have the dimensions here somewhere. Keep in mind, this is a lot of test data in this account. And we basically are doing some things here. Let's see if I can get some rates to pop up. That is not nice. I will find us an order that has better information here. Let's go to, let's see here. Okay. Fields. Wonderful. So now I can actually see the rates here. We will be improving on this. So for those of you that will be diving in onto this, feel free to give us the feedback. We wanted to show all the rates, but I believe it's against the policy to show the rates of all the carriers side by side. So what we're going to be doing instead is we're going to give you the ability in the all orders page to kind of just select all the orders and show all the rates for all the orders and figure out different workflows where this can actually become very valuable to you. As you can see here, I can modify the actual address information. I can change the things. I can put reference notes and whatnot. Marking it shipped will actually send the tracking number to the marketplace. But the workflow here is that you could create multiple actual labels, and I don't know that this is gonna work because we have some test data in here. But it's creating the label right now. And from here, only will I mark it shipped will it actually send to the marketplaces. But if I don't, I can keep creating new shipments one after the other. Now keep in mind too that we're looking at this from a user interface. We can do all of this functionality is also available via our API. So you could build an integration or use our own automation engine to facilitate creating labels for all of your things. And that's something for the discussion. I don't know what's happening here, but I will move on to this while this is happening. So let's go to another screen though. It's creating the label and doing something here. I don't know. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the search. So like before, you can search for a whole bunch of different things. There is the ability to now say like search for orders with certain number of items or shipments with certain number of items. Just like before, you can search for your shipping country or your billing country. And this will pull in orders that just have a shipping address with US. As you can see here, it's populating the different channels on the left that actually correlate to this search. And as I mentioned before, because it's a test account, it's a little slower than what you may experience. As you can see here, it's now pulling it in, and you can do a whole thing to search. And like before, you just click export here to export this out to a CSV. And you can add order by clicking add order here. So let's go to the add order screen. Now, more fields, that's what we mentioned before. So you could specify, custom for the channel or whatever you need to. You can put an order number in here. You can set your status. You can put the different aspects as much as you need to. I believe the only requirement to create an order in this new system is just a total, actual total, and a product, an item. Now, currently, we are only, in this iteration, it's an item that has to be in the account. So let's see if I can find a SKU that's in here. Go ahead and just select this. Go ahead and say 1. And I can add another item. And I can confirm it. See here now, it's all added in. I can see more details. I can actually update the custom fields associated with it. You see how it pulled in the dimensions already from the product. This field source, what this is for, it's for establishing which warehouse or inventory field the order item was decremented from. So this will happen automatically on channel imports. We'll specify, whether it came from one of the warehouses that you have in the system, or whether it was just the stock field, or you can specify it directly. And again, this can be used in tandem with drop shipping rules. So you can say, export orders from order items to warehouse 1, wherever the source is warehouse 1 stock, things like that. Shipment info, again, same interface for creating shipments. So you can create shipments and labels right here. And I believe you can actually add tracking numbers manually here, but I will confirm that with the team. And then internal notes is the other big upgrade here. And I'll show you this on the screen for editing an order. So this is how you add an order. Click add. It now redirects me to the new order page. And you'll see here all the actual fields are filled out. And the way these statuses work is basically it just looks for specific things. So for payment, it needs a payment date. For shipping, it needs shipments. And then the actual status itself, it's considered incomplete if you don't have a payment, if it's not paid for. But once it's paid for, then it actually will move automatically to complete status, into ready status. Okay, so let's look at the actual editor. So this is a order that was combined previously. Now we actually lay out all the different channel fields. We've normalized the ship by earliest, latest, deliver by earliest, latest from the different channels. Those channels that support this currently are Amazon, Walmart, and eBay. So we now put the dates here in one place. We now have a separate field for shipping service and shipping carrier. And this represents what was imported from the channel. So let's just say that you imported FedEx ground, but you shipped it with UPS priority. This will stay the original service and carrier, but the shipment itself will show the new shipment method. So that way it does not have to be, you don't have to think about what actually happened there. As I mentioned, you can now modify the items in the screen, so you just can search for more. Let us know if it would be valuable to be able to type items in manually. And notes. So now you can say, this is note 1. And you can update it. And then when you add a new note, it actually now gets stored as a separate note, and it's keyed by date. So now you can keep track of all the internal notes you have on a specific order, and you'll get a date. And when we converted all the orders to this new system, we basically looked at the last modified time, but going forward, it'll be the date that you actually created the note itself. So you can now utilize that data however you need to. So this particular order has multiple items. And to kind of wrap up the demo, we're going to go ahead and split this order back into multiple items. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the split screen. And basically, I have a quantity of 1. And if I leave this empty, like let's just say there's 2 items here, it will automatically create an additional split order based on the remaining item. So now I'm going to hit create split. And what you're looking at here is the actual order number of the original order, so you can maintain the reference of that. And now you have here the 2 split orders. And as you can see, it actually now took the combined and it just added a number to the actual split. So that essentially is the basics of what we've built. And this is just the foundation. There's a lot of functionality that we're going to be releasing now, especially with leveraging the custom fields to be able to facilitate automated drop shipping, purchase orders, whole set of functionality that we now can bake on top of this very easily now that this infrastructure is built. Last thing I'll show here is the pick list. So now the pick list is ordered by SKU. So you could print this out and it's actually ordered by SKU. And so now when you're in the warehouse, you don't need to basically look order by order. It's actually going to order it by the item SKU. I will now talk about what's right around the corner, but I hope that this was informative. I hope that this is something that is valuable to you, and in the coming weeks and months, you'll get to see how we leverage this foundation to facilitate all of the new intelligence we're about to launch. But let's talk about that now.
And before you do that, I just want to remind everybody that if you have questions, please feel free to post them or ask them in the box in the corner of your screen. We'll either try to answer them during the presentation or afterwards.
Thanks, Chris. So now that this is going to be launched, and we'll be working to refine some things over the coming days, and as I mentioned, we'll be launching Jet as early as next week because it's already part of this release. The first things we want to actually get worked on is refund management and cancellation management. So right through this system, you'll be able to generate a refund on marketplaces that support it, as well as manage cancellations through here. The other thing that we're working on in tandem, that's actually, we have people working on this currently, is building out more drop shipping providers. So think all of the distributors you may work with. Think of EDI connections, think of Amazon Vendor Central, marketplaces, FedEx cross-border. We're basically now working on creating automations to leverage the technology we just showed you. So phase one of this is being able to use these custom fields to either manually or dynamically say, based on which inventory field it decremented, or based on some field that you might specify manually in your product data, to automatically drop ship. Phase two will be about looking at multiple sources. So we could go out and say, here, give me the cost to drop ship an item from a vendor, but also give me the cost to actually ship it directly. And then the system will intelligently choose which one to pick. In addition to that too is location based. So we have the ability to store the different warehouses in our system. What we'll be working on is a zip code starting in the US, a zip code table that basically can say, based on the warehouse location, and choose a certain provider based on cost and time in transit. So that is only capable now that we have this new orders foundation in place. Meanwhile, already in the works and should be launched hopefully next week or the week after at the latest is our CMA Data Co-op integration. It leverages our automation engine, and the only thing we're building right now is the support for bulk ACEs. So for our automotive customers, you'll be able to upload a bulk ACEs file directly to the SureDone bulk uploader, and we will do our backend processing to now correctly assign fitment. And this is how our CMA Data Co-op is going to be powered. So we're using our own technology to do that. Meanwhile, though, we're about to begin work on Magento version 2. So this takes care of all of the deficits we had in our Magento 1. And at the same time, we've also been working on a throttling mechanism. So for all the Magento users out there, you'll be able to go into the back end and actually set a manual throttle. So instead of overloading your systems, overloading your storefronts, the throttle will basically not allow it to send updates, and we'll queue it on our retry system so it can be sent one by one. Our upgrades to Etsy and BigCommerce are overdue, so we're going to be working on those as early as next week and the week following to make sure that those are operational and ready for the holiday season. eBay's catalog upgrades are also due. And finally, we've secured an agreement with Google to be one of the first providers of Google Shopping Actions. So we're going to be offering that. Now, Google Shopping Actions, that you may or may not know, is basically the buy button on Google. Many of you may know what Google Shopping is, where basically it's a feed that updates to Google once or twice a day, and they get a link to your website. Google Shopping Actions is the buy button on Google, and we will be one of the first to offer it as early as September or October. So please reach out to support if you would be interested. They're looking for specific categories of product lines to list. There's an approval process, and we are the provider that can facilitate this because we have the order management in place and the authorization to list to their content API. And that's actually what we're working on right now. So while we're launching this, we still are working on this, what's on this screen. Let's talk about what you can expect towards the end of the year and into 2019. So I mentioned that we can leverage our automation engine to build new channels. And the first of those channels will be Rakuten and Newegg. So basically they have these file formats that can be uploaded to their system. We will be leveraging automation engine to create a simple inventory and order integration, potentially even listing through this mechanism. There won't be an interface because it is through the back end sending the feeds out, but you will have access to this so you can start to list to these channels if the mechanism supports it. We're debating between whether or not to launch Shopify or Storefronts v3 first. There is some discussion there, but essentially you'll get storefront instances. So if you use our storefronts, you'll be able to create storefront 2, storefront 3, storefront 4, the same way that you do your eBay 1, 2, 3, 4, or Shopify, but they both will be worked on. It's just one will come before the other. And then we are working on Amazon Fitment to complete all of our Fitment integrations, and then going into 2019 will be our advanced inventory management. So think about restocking, stock alerts, different states of stock. So you can basically account for whether it came into your warehouse or whether it actually was decremented absolutely. And this will be in addition to the stock inventory management that we already have. So it won't disrupt any of what we have there. This will be an additional layer to be advanced. And meanwhile, we are working on this now, but it will be ready for use by the end of the year in the first version, is our automated listing via machine learning. So what we basically are solving here is the ability, the end vision is this. We're gonna be able to take your image and then identify or a name and list it automatically to the right category across the internet. That is what we're working on right now. The first iteration of that, of what we're looking to launch by the end of the year, is to automatically categorize your products. So that way, when you pulled in that product from the shipping container, or whether you sourced it from some vendor, or whether you bought it somewhere, or whether you're taking a catalog from the latest fall release, you'll be able to list it much quicker because we will automatically categorize it across the major channels for you. That's in development right now, and we're looking to launch the first iteration of categorization by the end of the year. And that's all, folks. We've got a lot on our plate here. I hope a lot of what we've shared is valuable to you, and I hope a lot of what's coming out will be even more valuable to you. I will hand it back to Chris now to wrap it up and take it from here.
Great. Thank you very much, Jason. So first and most importantly, once again, there's going to be a short survey after the webinar. Really appreciate if everyone fills it out. If you don't, we're going to know who you are and we will pester you. No, seriously though, we do really want to know what you think about this format and what else we can do. Second, we're going to be releasing this tonight. We've done a lot of testing and we know how important orders are, but things are rarely absolutely perfect. If you do see a problem, please open a ticket at support.SureDone.com and provide as much detail as possible, screenshots, how to replicate the problem, etc. The push should be happening about midnight, and we expect it to take about an hour for it to be released. Next, we have published numerous guides at support.SureDone.com for the new order management system, and we're going to continue to publish new ones. We don't have anything up for Jet yet, but we expect for those to be up once Jet is released next week. If you're interested in things like automations and drop shipping, please open the ticket with support. We'll get back to you through there. And Jason, I appreciate you showing us some of the cool things we've added over the past couple of years, new platform and what else is coming out. It has been quite the journey. Looks like there's lots more to come, which reminds me, we would like to know what your priorities are as customers and as prospects and former customers. We have feature request message board located on our support site. So if you go to support.SureDone.com, click on forums at the top, it will bring you right there. So let us know what you think about the upcoming roadmap and what else you'd like to see. I'd like to pause just for one last minute and see if anybody has any additional questions. There are a few questions that I have not answered yet. We'll get back to you via email on those questions. But if you do have additional questions, please post them now. If you think of something after the presentation, please feel free to ask it at support.SureDone.com, and we'll do our best to get an answer for you. I'm sure the next day or two are going to be pretty busy for all of us as we learn the new system and we answer everybody's questions. So just one more minute. Jason, you have anything else to add in here?
Just to thank you for all taking the time to view everything here, and please communicate to us, using the survey of what's valuable to you, what you'd like to see, and any feedback you have. Thank you.
All right, well, great. With that, we appreciate everybody joining us, and thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Bye-bye.